Today on TimesCast, President Obama makes an unexpected announcement in India.
And we welcome India as it prepares to take its seat on the United Nations Security Council.
George W. Bush begins his book tour with an appearance on NBC Monday night.
Saddam Hussein's behavior led me to believe he had weapons of mass destruction.
And a first look at Tuesday's Science Times, the future of mining under the sea.
This is Jim Yardley. I'm the South Asia Bureau Chief for the New York Times in New Delhi. President Obama on Monday wrapped up his three-day trip to India with a surprise announcement that America would support a permanent Indian seat on the United Nations Security Council. There had been talk that this might happen, but the president himself had cast doubts on it. The big underscoring theme, I think, of this was that the United States under President Obama very much is promoting India as a global power and a partner at sort of a key moment. America needs cooperation on Pakistan and on Afghanistan, and in addition to that, both India and the United States, while each wanting to have relationships with China, I think are also concerned about China's increasing assertiveness. Having said that, American officials and Indians recognize that this is no certainty this will happen. This could take years, and the United States alone is not the only factor in this. China, for one, has been opposed to this. I think India wasn't quite certain what to make of Mr. Obama. They had a very warm relationship with George W. Bush because he pushed through a civilian nuclear agreement with India. Mr. Obama came, there was a bit of skepticism because Indians leaders had not quite known where he ranked with them. One of the things they were waiting for was some sort of statement about Pakistan and terror, and he gave it in his address to the Indian parliament, in which he said Pakistan had to do something about, quote, safe havens for terror groups. He also said that Pakistan needed to bring justice to those who carried out the Mumbai terror attacks in November 2008. Both of these things were very important for India to hear, and so I think the political establishment was very pleased by that.
How do you stay plugged in? Do you read a lot of newspapers? Do you watch TV? Surf the web?
All due respect, I watch no TV.
None at all.
I do surf the web.
Monday night, George W. Bush appears in his first interview since leaving office. Media reporter Brian Stelter looks at how the former president is very carefully promoting his new book.
So, Brian, George W. Bush has really made a point of staying out of the public fray since he left office, but he's emerging in a really big way this week.
He is. He's rolling out his book, Decision Points. Officially comes out on Tuesday, and it starts with this massive media tour. It starts with Matt Lauer on NBC in prime time tonight, then goes to Rush Limbaugh's radio show, Sean Hannity's Fox News show, and Oprah Winfrey's TV show on Tuesday, and then he goes back on with Matt Lauer on the Today Show on Wednesday, and from there, a bunch of other TV shows.
I'm imagining there was a lot of competition for this interview, right? It didn't just go to Matt Lauer.
There was, basically every network came up with a package, what they could offer, their best offer to George W. Bush, and NBC won out in part because of Matt Lauer, who's viewed as one of the only guys that has a comfortable rapport with President Bush.
Right, it didn't go to a David Gregory
or Brian Williams at NBC, but at the same time they say Matt's able to ask tough questions, just the tone is the right tone. So he asked about torture, he asked about Katrina and about 9/11, and apparently they let these interview segments run for at least a minute at a time so we can hear President Bush in his own words.
There's also a notable absence of print interviews in this schedule, isn't there?
There is. The only one they've acknowledged so far is AARP, the magazine, which actually is one of the biggest circulation magazines in the country. Now, Bush aides have said they will do other interviews with the print outlets, but they haven't said which ones yet.
And since there are some other notable political memoirs coming out soon, notably Dick Cheney's next year, do we think this is sort of a roadmap for how
I've got to think that Dick Cheney and his advisors are looking at this roadmap and thinking this makes sense. You start with what looks like a hard news interview with a respected newsman, then you go on a steady diet of Fox News and talk radio. You do a couple more lifestyle sorts of interviews with your family members as well, and by then you've probably sold 1 million copies.
Tuesday's Science Times is a special issue on the year ahead in science, including a story on mining for rare earth elements under the sea.
So looking into the future, we're going to see a lot more seabed mining?
It's sort of like the move to go into the ocean for oil, right? We've used up a lot of the oil supplies on land, so people are going more and more into the deep ocean. And one of the curiosities is that a really obscure, strange kind of rock down at the bottom called a manganese nodule is suddenly turning out to be a hot property, maybe a gold mine in the far future.
Really? These are what? These are big rocks, little rocks?
They're small. They're the size of potatoes or smaller, but there's trillions of them, right? All over the Atlantic, the Pacific, the Indian Ocean.
What do they contain that's really useful?
What's got people really excited right now is that they have rare earth elements. These are really hot because they're used all over the high-tech economy, in computers, in fancy lights, in lasers, in electrodes on rechargeable batteries.
So why haven't we already been mining these nodules?
It hasn't been economic till now.
So I have a couple of these manganese nodules from long ago.
What a wacky guy. No, I don't. No, you've got the corner on this.
How much do you think they're worth?
Not a thing.
I was thinking like the antique roadshow for manganese nodules, you know?
Not yet. This is a futuristic thing, right? And it depends not just on the rare earth elements, but the fact that, for instance, copper and nickel in these nodules, the market price is going up. So it's becoming, you know, according to these oceanographers, this source is becoming more and more interesting.
Join us again tomorrow for TimesCast.